Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. So last time we established, and again proving, that the universe is contracting. But really, I guess the most complete thing or most specific thing we can say, right, if you have two discrete objects, again all things are discrete. Because you'll typically, I don't even know if this is common, but I've seen it be used as like an analogy where if you have a balloon and you inflate the balloon, like the points kind of spread out. And I think that's an absolutely terrible analogy. I don't know if that's common or not, but I was exposed to that with my years in physics classes. But right, the balloon is one thing, right? It's one system. And so we established last time, and overwhelmingly apparent, that each thing, right, one notebook is composed of a lot of atoms, and those atoms are moving. So everything is dynamic, and every time you try to take a measurement, you're effectively taking a snapshot, a moment, and it does not capture that dynamic aspect of all things. Right? All things are systems, all systems are dynamic. And so if you have a point on a balloon and it inflates, right, you can literally see like the ink, right, because it's three-dimensional and it's expanding. And so that's not the right image to have. But just think of like two balloons or two things, each of them representing a system. Well, each of them physically, literally are systems. And then if they both, they're in a fixed spatial or volume, and then they decreased, right, the points, or they're concentrating to a different center. Just use galaxies for the most specific example. Andromeda and the Milky Way, our galaxy, are going to collide. But just point being is there's some gravitational attraction, and if you're concentrating to different things, you're still going to have that, what is currently called expansion. It's not expansion. But things are all of these things that are concentrating around different centers are going to be receding or going to be farther away. And so that is the dichotomy we discussed. But the thing is, for the simple thermodynamic reason, when things get cooler, they condense. So when you contract, there's going to be more distance, and that is what is occurring. And so the distance, just the distance between discrete systems as that condensation contraction happens. Contraction shortens, sensorality contracts. Sensorality shortens. So now let's see that again, this is kind of, we're getting close to this direct iteration. Sensorality, you can literally see sort, sorty, and then short. And so again, it will show this stabilizing theorem, will show the direct iteration of these letters. Sorting shortens. All mass has charge distribution that is positive and negative, and that's the fundamental stability of 2 for charge. All mass has charge distribution dynamic, and all things more. Why don't I just have all things more? I don't know, but so all things are magnets. Point being is you have mass, it's stabilized with charge, and charge and magnetism are different. And again, the immediate, which one's more fundamental, or what can we say about either one, right? You can have a positive charge independent, you can have a negative charge independent, or at least if it's 3 quarks bounded together, but you can have a unit of charge separated, whereas you can't have magnetic monopoles. And so intuitively right now I want to say that means, again, the magnet, I guess, is the stabilized thing, where the charge is not. But regardless, for our point here, it's just you have positive and negative. The fundamental stability of 2 is 2-dimensional components. And so again, you don't have neutrons, but all of these atoms that are in dynamics that are actually moving, discrete particles moving, and just layered system on layered system. All of these charge distributions, and because all things moving, everything is a magnet. And so what is a magnet? A magnet is a sensor, right? And that's a sensor with a C. A net sensors. Or I guess I have it spelled with an S, but it doesn't really matter. Again, once we get our intuition in the right place, and again, it's not like I'm not getting stuck. It's just, again, it takes 7 years to work through every bit of logic. And, it's people will be like, oh, if you want to derive everything, that looks like a lot of work. It's like, yeah, yeah, it is. But point being is that little chunk, all things are magnets. You have stabilized charge, moving charge induces a magnetic field. That magnetic field's always going to have polarity. And so polarity is kind of the concept that encapsulates both magnetism and electricity or electric charge. But again, you can't have a magnetic monopole. And so a net, right, see like a magnet, right, it just has mag, it's a prefix to the word net. So a net is a sensor. Sensorality is sensorsing. Sensorality is sourcing. What is the source of a sore? What is pain to soreness? Somebody says they're sore, right? Oh, it's the good kind of soreness. I worked out yesterday. Oh, I'm in pain, it's a bad kind of sore. What's the relationship of pain and sore, right? Like I say personally, pain is not well defined, and then I personally will say that I have back pain. It's like I have central nervous damage when it tries to fire electrical signals, that it kind of there's interference, and I process that dysfunction or that latency, so to speak, as pain. Contraction, traction. Progress is traction. Sensorality retracts. Retracting retreats. To treat is to spoil. Action produces traction. Action differentiates movement, right? Running, jumping, throwing, clapping, backflipping, right? Those are all differentiations of movement. How does action relate to sensation? Just trying to find the right question that elicits the syllability that stabilizes sensorality. Gravity contracts. Contracting limits. What is retracting to contracting? Right? You contract a disease. You might have a sunsetter awning that retracts. So again, just posing these questions to elicit the intuition. Right? Words have meaning. Those meanings come from physical processes and physical objects. Just trying to find the right question. Contraction condenses. What sensations produce condensation? Right, now we're back to our salivating moisturizes theorem. Because remember, not die, reproduce, and think is our conceptual bounding theory of the universe that will always be iterating. That will never change. But yeah, again, something to do with moisture came back up. Why does all energy, that is vibration, go to a phase change, not to a temperature change? You heat up a pot, you put ice in some water, you put it on the stove, and you turn the stove on, and that heat, there's charge going through a coil. That coil is having some resistance. That resistance causes heat and boils your water. But if you put a thermometer in there, when the ice is melting, the temperature of the solution will not change. And so why does that happen? And what is that reflective of? What is energy to temperature? Energy is the capacity to do work. Temperature is the amount of vibration. Vibration is the base of movement. If something vibrates enough, it will literally start to move. A vibration is a cycle that does not do work. Rhythm is cyclical motion that does do work. And so what is energy to temperature? The more energy it has, but it doesn't necessarily like it can be stored energy, right? If the bonds are all lined up, right, you don't have to have something that can have a lot of energy, E equals mc squared, but it not have a lot of temperature, not be vibrating. So what is energy to temperature? Energy is fundamental, temperature is emergent. Yeah. A verse is a vibe. And so now I'm just again trying to dissect this statement. The universe is expanding. No, independent discrete systems are contracting to separate center points, and centers aren't well defined because of geometry. It looks like they're receding or getting further apart, which they are, but the overall size of the system is not increasing. So it's again, what is expanding? Expanding is growing. If I inflate a balloon, the whole system is just proportionally getting stretched out. But that's not the right intuitive thing. We have discrete systems. And so it's like two balloons deflating and the points on the outer part of the balloon getting farther away. But the universe is expanding. Literally, the universe, one verse. And so a verse is a vibe. Vibration is versation. A verse is a sense. Brad, I don't know what you mean by there. Doesn't matter. It's just, again, the linguistic similarity is apparent. Sense in verse. Sensorality is a sense of verse. What is a verse? Right, a song verse, a song lyric, a verse of a song. And then it immediately pulls back up the intuition of when I talk really fast like this, you can still hear me and understand me, or if I talk really fast, you can still understand me. And so you can't like, right? You can say it faster, you can kind of contract, or you can expand, but it's still the same thing, and you can still understand what I'm saying. And so when you're saying the universe is expanding, what exactly, literally, are you saying? The verse is expanding? Are you adding more words? Are you saying something different? And again, universe, when you say, that's outside of my universe, you're talking about sentience, the things that are directly relevant to you. So words have meaning. What are the right question to ask about all of this stuff? Because again, there will always be infinitely many more questions than we do answer to, that are true that we can't answer definitively, and then infinitely past that, there are things we can't decide if they're true or not true. And so we're just trying to find the right question to stabilize sensorality, as I said a million times. Contraction concentrates. Sense or sourcinality centrates. And so again, just flipping the syllability, sensorality with a C, then we get that synality, and then concentrate. Trying to show this iteration. An object is a system. Objects are dynamic. We discussed that. And then do verses expand or contract. We just discussed that. And then the final thing is the intuition of what is the relationship of the universe. Again, forgetting what we just discussed about the actual literal, what that language means. Intuitively, all things that exist is bigger, or the concept of infinity is derivative from the universe. The awareness that all things that exist are more than the things we interact with is less than the amount of things that exist. And so the infinity is a well-defined concept derivative from the immensity and the vastness of the universe. And so what does that word exactly mean? Is that even like the relevant question? Again, it's just a process. Each time it might seem like one of these questions is like the big question, but it isn't. It's just you have to work through all of this logic. And so that is what I have for you tonight. Thank you for watching. My rights continue to be violated. It is profound and extensive stress. I continue to beg, not even to ask, to have the ability to eat, to sleep, and to work. That is it. I have no expectation anything will change. I just keep putting myself out there and hoping somebody will care, but there is nobody left and my life is ruined. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.